The next is a classic book, and this is Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. I actually read this with my best friend as a school project in senior year of high school, or 12th grade, and I fell in love with it. It is a dystopian novel. It is crazy, it is trippy, it is unbelievable, and it makes you think. And it was progressive for its time, and it's still progressive now. The movie was definitely not as good, but some of the scenes in here just stick with me, and they probably will stick with me for the rest of my life. So thanks, Miss Kaboo, for assigning us the option to read this book, because I have never regretted it. The next book is another teen book. This is one of the books that got me out of vampires, because I've always loved vampires ever since I was 12, and I read Interview with the Vampire for the first time. We'll get to that in a bit. But this is Hawksong. It's book 1 in the Kia Shara series, and it's by Amelia Atwater Rhodes. She also does vampire novels, which I absolutely love. They are so fast and so easy to read because they just grip you and draw you in. And I know it may seem silly for me to go and hold up such like a tiny little book, and it's a teen novel, but the emotions in this book are emotions that everybody wants to have, and that everybody kind of experiences, or at least when you're reading it, you feel like you're experiencing it with the character. The next book actually brought me into the world of historical fiction. I saw the title, The Leopard Prints, and I thought it was going to be about a shapeshifter, and it wasn't. At all whatsoever. And it turns out that it is fiction, but it is historical romance, and Elizabeth Hoyt was the first historical romance book that I ever read, and I wound up falling in love. This is actually, I think, the second book, or maybe the third book in the series. There's also the Raven Prince and the Serpent Prince, and maybe one other, but I absolutely love this book. It has such, Elizabeth Hoyt is just such a beautiful, amazing author. She's so talented. I absolutely love this. The thing that I love about these books is that there is a story within the story. So you go and you start out with these little excerpts of these stories, these fictional, almost fairy tale like stories, and then you also get the actual story that's happening in the book. And throughout the book, the excerpts get larger and larger and larger, and you get this whole story, and it's a whole fantastical, beautiful story. And sometimes it has to do with the book itself and kind of correlate to what is happening in the book, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just a totally separate story, and it's so cool that Elizabeth Hoyt has the talent to totally, she gives you two separate, essentially, books in one book. It's just absolutely amazing the way that she does it. The next book I got when I was in middle school. I was in Florida at the time, and I got it for Christmas, and I got a couple other books as well. But I read this book. I read it in a day and a half, and I finished it, and I immediately, no joke, immediately opened to the first page and reread it again. And that is Charlene Harris's Dead Until Dark. This is the first book in the True Blood series. Now, I know mine has the now HBO True Blood, and that is because I actually gave my book to a friend, but I gave him my original copy of the book, and it essentially had just come out back then. But I gave him the original copy of the book when we were in high school, and unfortunately he never gave it back to me, so I had to go out and buy a new version, and since then I've probably read it 3 more times. I love this book, even though I know what's going to happen, even though I know every single word that every character is going to speak. I love it. I love the kind of the feeling that I get when I read it. It's very nostalgic for me, but at the same time, it just totally takes me into a different place. Just the way that Suki describes her life, it's very, very different from the TV series. And just, you know, the food that her grandmother cooks and the way that the people talk, and you can hear their accents in your ears, and the way that Bill is, it's totally different from the series. The plot is overall the same, but the series is very dark and gritty and sexualized and stuff like that. And this book it's just totally different. Like, if you haven't read this book, go pick it up, read it. It's so different and so good and so captivating. The next book is quite far into one of my favorite series of all time. This is the Brotherhood series by J.R. Ward. This is Butch's book, and Butch is my favorite character in this series. It used to be Zadist, but it slowly became Butch. Just every time Butch came into the book and into a scene, I became more and more and more in love with him. And J.R. Ward is amazing. I got the amazing privilege to meet her, and she signed one of my books. I actually think that she signed this one. Yep, to Caitlin. Best wishes, J.R. Ward. Okay, I love Butch. I am slowly getting through The King, which is several books down the line. But I have also read her Bourbon King series and her Angel series and all of her Jessica Bird novels. Just, this woman is a genius. Even back in her Harlequin romance days. A genius. She creates the most beautiful characters, the most heart-wrenching stories. Just, there's a reason that this book is this thick. And, like, it's not, like, this thick and, like, double-spaced or anything like that. Like, it's a hefty book. There is a lot going on in this series, and it is one of my favorites. It is absolutely flawless and stunning. If you like vampires and you like badassery. The next book I actually read when I was in middle school, and I read it. I actually recommended it to one of my best friends. His name is Joe. Hello, Joe. I love you. I miss you. And it is called Across the Nightingale Floor. And this is a beautiful book. This book is so beautifully written and just transports you to a whole different place and time. And you just... it's almost unreal to read this book and to then, you know, come out of it and be in this modern world. It's just absolutely beautiful. And if you enjoy kind of like ninja training or martial arts, Japanese culture, and kind of that feudal lord system and stuff like that, definitely read this book. This is Mistborn. It is one of several of his books in the series. Definitely go and pick this up. This book is so good. It's so amazing and compelling and almost confusing at times, and it's almost like you're trying to keep up with what everything is happening, only it's all happening simultaneously. So it's just an amazing world, and I think that this is probably one of the best classic fantasy novels out there, and that you should definitely go and pick it up. The next book is Howls Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Diana Jones has done several novels, and it just so happens that Howls Moving Castle was made into a movie by Hayao Miyazaki, who is probably my favorite animator of all time. But we're getting off track. Director, animator, creator, whatever you want to call him. I loved the movie. I loved the movie. So when I found out that this was actually based off of a book, I was like, I can read a book version of Howl's Moving Castle? Hell yeah. And it's so cool to see how it was interpreted. Number one, Miyazaki did an absolutely gorgeous job. Number two, Diana Wynne Jones is flawless. This world is so immersive and so alluring and captivating. It's hard to believe that it doesn't actually exist and that she's not just writing about a place that she's been. Howl is such an intriguing and mystical and beautiful character. Sophie is absolutely selfless and gorgeous inside and out. And even Michael, who in the whose name was actually translated to Markle in the Miyazaki, he is such a cute character, and so I just thoroughly enjoyed this book. Go and read her other books as well, not just Howl's Moving Castle. She has written so many good ones, and I genuinely hope you go and you check this out because it's beautiful, it's amazing. If you loved Howl's Moving Castle, you will die for